welcome Yamhill County to Speaking Frankly. I'm your host, Howie Harkema, and our tagline is, "And how we doing?" And today I have two guests with me. The first guest is Jill Dale, who's Yamhill County Prevention Specialist. Welcome, Jill.
Thank you.
Thank you for being on today. And my second guest is Carolyn Simeone from Yamhill County Human Services, and she's a specialist number 2.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you for asking us.
It's a pleasure to have you again, Carolyn, and welcome, Jill, for the first time. So we're going to talk about, and our topic is problem gambling and don't risk it. And so the first question to Carolyn is, firstly, problem gambling is truly an addictive behavior and disease. Is that true?
Absolutely. March is Federal and State Problem Gambling Awareness Month.
Wow.
And thank you so much for having us here to help us to increase the ability for people to intervene if they feel like they're starting to have a problem with gambling. Most people do not have a problem with gambling. Most people have a sense of recreation. Gambling is a recreational activity. And not only that, but it provides excellent revenue to the state for the purpose of education. And so there is a subset anywhere between
2 and 7%.
There you go. So between 2 and 7% of people that do gamble develop a problem with it. And that is being studied pretty rigorously right now because of the fact that gambling in its evolution from being pretty much a Las Vegas-based behavior now is a social behavior for people. And I don't know how many states, but majority of states do have legal gambling available. So problem gambling is addictive, and the way that we have determined it being addictive, it has diagnostic criteria, just like any disease has.
It's measurable. It's measurable in many ways.
Exactly. And prior to the DSM-4, which is a diagnostical statistical manual for diagnosis of mental health issues. In the 4, it was considered an impulse control disorder. And because of the ability for research to take place for problem gambling, we now in the DSM-5 have transferred it into a substance use disorder, the first behavioral addiction, the very first behavioral addiction, although they are studying other ones like shopping and pornography and internet gaming addiction. So problem gambling is the first one that's identified as a behavioral addiction. There's 10 diagnostic criteria, and when it was in the 4, and now that it's in the 5, they took out criminality because of what we said before about how it had been pretty much a Nevada experience for people, 30, 40 years ago, right?
Sure.
And then now, since it's been accepted as a social activity, it's not really involved with the criminal element. Imagine there's still some of that, but it's very well regulated, especially in Oregon. It's very well regulated, and we have a very good relationship with the lottery. And I'm also an alcohol and drug counselor, and I've never been to, not that I recall, I don't think I've ever been to a meeting where the alcohol beverage industry has been, or the pharmaceutical industry has ever been present at any of our conferences. The lottery is always present at our conferences. So they are very supportive of us providing them information to not make gambling any more addictive than it is.
And 1% of problem gambling, or 1% of lottery dollars is also spent on prevention and treatment. So it is in their interest to be supportive of treatment. They don't want it to be a problem for Oregonians.
That makes sense to me. this is a non-substance addictive behavior.
Exactly. Yeah, so the criteria are people become restless when they don't gamble. They think about gambling as a way to escape. And sometimes, like for example, some clients that are involved like in domestic violence, they take their children to the daycare at the casino as a way to provide safe space for them. So that's, you know, that's an escape. Some people use it as escape from depression. And then there's the action gambler, which the gambler that, mostly the action gamblers are the gamblers that have had a fairly significant big win. So, and we'll talk about that later. So, and then also problems with money, problems with the family, you know, a bankruptcy and that kind of stuff.
Sure,
So,
we're going to walk through some of that in just a minute.
Thank
so
you.
interestingly, many of these behaviors, excessive compulsive gambling, sex, eating, and shopping, have been associated with Parkinson's disease and its treatment. And this is derived from Weintraub in 2010, further suggesting a common biological pathway across these conditions.
If you think about anything that happens in the brain, if you are given certain prescriptions have certain reactions in the brain and impel us to do things differently. And there are some prescriptions that have a result of people being more compulsive about gambling and some of these other behaviors.
So, Carolyn, can we talk about the fantasy world of a gambler?
that's so important, which is one of the reasons why I did make the commitment to get certified. When I took this job 10 years ago, they asked me to be certified, and I wanted to involve myself in this because of the whole concept of disassociation and the fantasy world, which is a category, which is a symptom of a variety of mental illnesses. But with problem gamblers, they actually develop a fantasy world. They have developed the ability to disassociate. So problem gamblers will report that they are on the machine 4, 6, 8, 10 hours and then look at the time and are just astounded that that time had passed because they've entered this other state.
Sure.
And it has it's reinforced by the sounds of the machines, by the colors of the machines, by the rapidity of the action of the machine. So that fantasy world actually, they have this one handout. I think that's really very important one. And the fantasy world, so maybe you have, you can relate to kind of what's your favorite meal, and then all of a sudden, hey, let's go get it, and that kind of stuff, right? People,
sure.
Interesting. Well, so then the problem gambler was like, they'll hear the sound, which we're also digitalized.
Yes,
Yeah.
digitalized.
Right, there you go. Which means that our phones make these digital sounds, right? Tablets, computers, etc. So a problem gambler will hear that sound and they'll get triggered about the machine because those machines have the similar sound. So all of a sudden, oh, life can be good. Yeah, let's go gamble. Yeah. If I bet more, I'll win more. So that's the negative talk that a gambler has. If I bet, I'll win. When in reality, bet generally for a problem gambler will lead to loss, because it's very exciting to lose for a gambler because that means they can keep playing.
Right. So on page 2 of that handout,
Okay.
what are a gambler's thoughts as they're going through
You want me
all
to
of
read
this?
them?
Yeah, please.
Okay. So a gambler's thoughts are, when I get to the casino or to the machine, all my problems will vanish like the wind. If I am a winner, even if I don't win money. And that's related to the fact that gamblers have like a different idea of money. I see you have a question on the money.
Yeah.
So there's real money, which I pay my rent and mortgage and bills and that kind of stuff, groceries. And then there's gambling money. So for a recreational gambler, maybe that happens like once a month or whatever. Okay, I got $50, I'm going to go to the casino and that's it. If I win, I'm leaving in an hour or whatever.
Right.
Not a problem gambler. I'm a winner, even if I don't win.
And it's fun.
Yeah, there you go. There's
And it's social.
And a social, a feeling of social, even though it don't bother me when I'm gambling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can have a new identity free from routine. Gambling is an energetic force, which is absolutely true. It has epinephrine, which is a stimulant hormone. So as soon as when people gamble, they get stimulated in their brain. They have this epinephrine,
Right, the chemical
be
release.
released,
Sure.
right, which is similar to meth and cocaine.
Sure, it gives them a high.
Exactly, an energetic high, not a depressing high, but an energy high. So that's often why that seniors will be a frequenting population, because you get tired when you get older. Not me, of course, but no, I'm joking. Yeah.
That's phenomenological.
That's right. That's right. You talk about that, because
Yeah.
that's a favorite word of ours that we talked about.
So what does that mean?
Phenomenal.
Yeah.
Phenomena. It's a phenomena. So the thing about, the switch from the DSM into behavioral addiction has to do with this reporting, because of the fact that now that gambling is everywhere, especially in Oregon.
Everywhere.
Everywhere, except for, I don't know where they don't have it. Maybe do they have it? I think they even have it in Utah. But I mean, it used to be just Nevada, and now all of a sudden it's everywhere. I mean, it's on people's phones,
Oh,
right?
yeah, the phone.
So that's one of the reasons why we have Problem Gambling Awareness Month, because it's so much more available and accessible than it used to be. And so, it's our responsibility to really be mindful of our behavior and how easily it
So
can
we're
evolve.
almost halfway through already,
Are
and
we?
so I'm going to quickly
Okay,
ask
here we
you
go.
what the big win concept is.
Okay, so here we go. Okay, so we've all had exceptional experiences, right? No matter what, all different areas of our life, childbirth, whatever, right? Something that'll just always make us remember. So when a gambler, like say even a recreational gambler, low risk gambler, has a big win, all of a sudden I put 20 in and I get 5,000, 10,000, 20,000 out. The brain registers that as a very significant event. So it becomes a very significant memory. And so what happens is that then when you have that highly significant memory, then the brain returns to that. Hey, let's go gambling. Maybe I'll have another big win. I'm due. Or they stand around and look at the machines and they see somebody's losing, and then they get up and then they sit down. It's bound to win now. Bound to win. This bound to pay off.
Right.
So the big win is really, it's like a hook for a problem gambler.
Mm-hmm.
I can always have another one because I had one.
Right. And the memory just holds true, and they come back to it over and over. So the fantasy
can I say one more
shift,
thing
yes.
about that? So in terms of behavior, if you do gamble and you have a big win, to say to yourself, this is never going to happen again. Just straight out tell yourself that. Might, but still, if you have that memory, you're at risk to becoming more compulsive about the gambling.
Talk about the fantasy shift.
Okay, so the fantasy shift has to do with the fact that it's related to the big win as one opportunity. Okay. It's related to the big win as a way for a memory system to develop. So when a person has a big win, then they're more apt to think that they will have another big win, right? So the dream of winning is better than actually winning. So that's where it becomes a problem, is when they think that it's better than actually winning, because then you can sit around and dream about it or fantasize about it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right? And then you believe that, I believe that I can sit around and think about gambling, and then I can have that enjoyment, because I can do that. I don't have to go to the casino. I don't have to spend any money, but I can sit around and think about it. So you can imagine what that does to in the workplace, which is one of the things, with the phone. When people are having their phone in the workplace and stuff like that, they're getting distracted.
Well, in this pamphlet right here,
Okay.
it says that 1 out of 37 of your employees have a gambling problem.
There you go.
So that says a
There you
lot.
go.
It says a lot. Because as employers, as employees, we're adults. We're responsible.
So let's talk about Kate Brown and the proclamation. So why, Jill, has Oregon Governor Kate Brown and Secretary of State Dennis Richardson proclaimed the month of March as Problem Gambling Awareness Month?
One of the things was that the Oregon Health Authority and the lottery combined their ask to have this proclamation made to the governor. This is the first time that those two agencies have gone together to ask this. But it's because 80,000 Oregonians of all ages and backgrounds have issues or repercussions with problem gambling. For instance, when you talk about as an employer, if you're having issues with embezzlement, what happened? Why did that person embezzle money?
Right.
How was there something put in place that they could be seeking free treatment for gambling prior to any larger amounts being stolen or something like that?
Right.
Anyway, Oregon is also dedicated to reducing the negative effects of gambling for all Oregonians. That's the other reason.
So they just brought up the proclamation and had it on the screen. And in that proclamation it states that with $500 million spent annually and increasing, what does that cause to Oregon?
It can also increase the numbers of bankruptcies. It can increase criminal activity, like I talked about the embezzlement.
Right.
Loss of productivity of the workforce. You guys both spoke about people kind of being in that dissociative state as well. Loss of relationships. Loss of people's houses. Individually, people may lose their house.
Foreclosures, sure.
Or something else of incredible value because they are compulsively gambling.
Right.
And what I'd like to add to that is the fact that, treatment is available, it's funded through the lottery, and it can help clients change. I've used this example before because we do cognitive behavioral therapy, which has changed the way I think, I'll change the way I behave. So a client, was bailed out by one of their parents, and that relationship was distraught. I mean, it's a difficult relationship. But being in treatment, after 9 months, there was one lapse of 1 day, and he couldn't pay that payment. So he got to be able to tell that parent, I'm going to make it up next week. I want you to know I haven't gambled for 9 months, but I did, and I can't pay you this month. I'm going to pay you next month. So he was able to somehow repair that relationship and not just say, I'm sorry, and then do it again, right? He actually had the skills, to face his parent and say, I'm going to pay you double next month, and he had the history of doing that for 9 months. So he knew how to do that, and he knew how good it felt.
So for you, Jill, is this an adults-only problem?
Absolutely not. The kids, there's about 21% of 8th graders in Oregon or in Yamhill County that gamble in some way. Now, I'm not clear if it's the kind of fun family poker night or where they've lost money and become compulsive. From the surveys that they've taken, it's about 21% of 8th graders and slightly less than that for 11th graders that through survey answer that they have gambled money.
Sure.
It also, though, if you really think about it, what's available? Again, I show you the phone. You pick up any device,
Right.
and the first thing that comes on is slotomania. The phone doesn't know that you're only 12,
Right.
13.
Right.
So another good opportunity for parent-child communication. Very important because the world is more complex. Technology has made the world easier, better, and all that stuff, but it's also made it much more complex. So parents, need to develop the skills to talk to young people about those complexities. It's very
And our
important.
schedules are so fast and furious these days that we don't always interact with our children in the way that we really would like to. And that's part of this.
Absolutely. And to know that over the past, I believe the research was over the past 10 years, that attention span has gone from 12 seconds to 8 because of technology, because of the high stimulation of technology.
It's the pace of our
Yeah,
world.
right.
And the same dissociation that happens with technology, where you're playing the game. You're playing the game to the point where you've not done your homework as a student. You've not done your chores. You've not done anything. You've stayed in your house and ordered pizza for the last 30 days. That can't be good for you.
Right. And we talked about World of Warcraft the other day. Let's talk about that real quick.
Okay.
Because a lot of kids become very addicted to this software. And it just generates what we're talking about, an addictive behavior that then lashes out in other ways. Online gambling seems to be rampant these days.
It's part of the phenomenological.
Yes, in our culture today.
Right.
So what kinds of crisis and prevention services are there out there in today's world for the problem gambler?
At Yamhill County Adult Behavioral Health at 627 Northeast Evans, 503-434-7527, we provide crisis services. So naturally it's crisis services, of course, for what we're talking about, problem gambling, for gamblers and their families and loved ones. So that's important to really know. But I do want to give the plug for Yamhill County Adult Behavioral Health, same phone number, same address, of providing other types of crisis service like suicide. If there's a
Right.
suicide, call Yamhill County because we have what's called a crisis assessment team, and they identify that. So definitely about that crisis and treatment, and then prevention.
And treatment is free. So that's another thing to really be aware of. Treatment is free for anyone in Oregon.
Right. There's no charge for any of it.
There's no charge for any of it. There is a correlation with people who have big losses in suicide, so that is something that she brought up that really needs to also have people be aware of the relationship between problem gambling and suicide. There also is a relationship with problem gambling for kids. Anyone who has sort of risky behaviors, these are things like alcohol, it correlates with
Sure, that
problem
makes sense to
gambling.
me.
So what about the bracelet?
Yeah, let's talk about the bracelet. The bracelet reads as follows. Gambling is risky. Don't risk it.
Why do you think that we
Because it
have
changes
these
lives and patterns of what we all can benefit from, the potential of our lives and all of that.
Why put that on a bracelet, though? Why do you think we decided to do that? Very minimal cost.
Because it has become a multi-million-dollar and life-changing situation.
Absolutely.
The other thing is that gambling is a behavior that carries risk.
Right.
There are things that people do as families and as social gatherings, and then there's the small amount of people, very small amount of people that you have to be careful with, and they have to be careful of their own gambling.
I need to move
They're
right along
higher-
real
Can I
higher
say
risk.
one more thing?
Yeah, go
So
ahead.
it appears, from the work that I've done, that if you come from a family of gamblers, you're at a higher risk because if the family gambles, then there's a loyalty to do that, and then they're used to doing that together. So that can complicate things.
Right.
So a quick question aside is, it's not just for the gambler, though. The treatment programs can also be for the families of,
Work with families.
because they're dealing with as much heartache as the gambler himself or herself.
And certainly we encourage that families call and get some help as a way to intervene. And
Absolutely. So, Andrew, if you would bring up that first graphic for Gamblers Anonymous. So, Gamblers Anonymous has a meeting at Provoking Hope Building on Tuesday and Thursday at 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. at 207 Northeast 10th Street here in McMinnville. And who should go? Gamblers with a desire to stop gambling, and probably family members that really need the support.
absolutely.
There's also another one, Carolyn, and we didn't have a graphic for it. So.
Yes, I'm a big cheerleader for this one because it was initially what we used to call it seed funding by the state, and then the Gamblers in Recovery took it over. So it's been going by, they found the place to have it, they bought the materials on their own, there's no government involvement at all, it's totally through Gamblers Anonymous, and that's it's on Thursdays at 5:30 at the First Baptist Church, 125 Southeast Cowles in McMinnville. And you enter on the First Street side upstairs, and again, it's for gamblers with a desire to stop gambling.
Very good. So we're going to jump to the last question because we only have about 3 minutes left.
Okay.
So lastly, and a wonderful opportunity for middle school youth to create a gambling prevention poster and then submit your illustration artwork and written message about gambling prevention and possible placement into the 2018 calendar that is put out. And they're bringing up the submission form. And to submit for this, there's the information. If you'd bring up the second graphic, Andrew, the next graphic. And Jill, would you please talk about this a little bit?
This is an opportunity for a creative message using one of the following. You do not have to use the exact words, but make sure that you include a gambling prevention message, that gambling can be risky activity, gambling for money online is illegal, using free internet gambling sites puts you at risk for identity theft and other serious problems. Anyone with a gambling problem can get free counseling. Gambling problems can happen to anyone. And there are a few more pieces. If you're interested, please put this on an 8.5 by 11 sheet of white paper. You can draw almost anything. Please don't draw a winning poker hand or winning combinations of symbols on a slot machine. It can be a trigger for some people with issues with problem gambling. The prize possibilities are for students, a $50 gift certificate for a calendar cover artwork, or a $25 gift certificate for each of the other 11 months. And he showed you the calendar, I believe, or he's going to?
Yet. Andrew, bring that down. Would you bring up Jill's information, please? Because to submit this entry form, they've got to contact you here locally. So it's Jill Dale, Yamhill County Public Health, 412 Northeast Ford Street, McMinnville, Oregon, 97128. And quickly, this is what the 2017 calendar looks like. And the possibility is to get the cover or a piece within the 12 months
Exactly.
of the calendar for 2018.
And they're great drawings. They're all over in the community. People love to have students be able to have their drawings available. And it would be really cool if somebody in Yamhill County won that art contest.
That would be cool.
Absolutely.
So we have run out of time, amazingly. Thank you so much for being on today.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much for being on today. And thank you, viewers, for watching the show today. I think that we've really brought about an awareness of what problem gambling can do.
Thank you.
And the treatment thereof.
Thank you so
very
much.
Thank you.
So I'm planning on having the three ladies